Have you ever thought that being able to speak another language could change your perspective of the world you live in? And how being bilingual could bring great benefit to you? Being bilingual has many obvious practical benefits in an increasingly globalized world. In recent years, however, scientists have begun to show that being bilingual or multilingual actually makes you smarter. It can improve cognitive skills and may even shield the brain against dementia in old age. I personally experienced a benefit of being bilingual while I was at university and became a member of ISEC. ISEC is a student-run international organization in 110 countries that runs an international exchange program which annually enables over 20,000 students the opportunity to live and intern in another country. After joining ISEC, you can enter a review process to assess your experiences and motivation for going on an ISEC exchange. Part of the process involves visiting local companies in an effort to market our idea in the hope that they will receive an intern from abroad. After visiting many companies in my university town and securing many spots for interns to come to the US, I was able to earn my own internship to Bordeaux, France. I will never forget my experience as an intern in a French company, and it certainly would not have been possible if I had not been a student of a foreign language. I would like to introduce to you now my friend Nancy. Nancy works at Société Générale at their Chicago branch. She will explain a bit about her job there and how the fact that she speaks a second language was instrumental in her being hired at Société Générale. Nancy, I would like, if you wouldn't mind, if you could tell us about Société Générale, the bank where you work, and sort of your position there and how your knowledge of the French language helps you in your day-to-day job activities.
Certainly, avec plaisir. I work at Société Générale. You just saw the logo, and it represents the 18th largest bank in the world. The Chicago branch has only commercial accounts, and I started working for this entity because I wanted to use my French language skills, and they provided me that opportunity. The bank services Fortune 500 companies in America, and even though they're American companies, we do have relationships around the world, and I do have the opportunity to use my French language skills with both our regional office in New York and our head office in Paris at La Défense. Knowing and using the French language has been rewarding to me. I've been at the bank for over 20 years, and there's always an opportunity to learn even more about the richness of the French language because the bank offers language classes. And in addition to that, you use your actual technical knowledge on a day-to-day basis in speaking with the analysts and the bankers, and also with the clients, which is on a periodic basis, but it is a skill and a benefit to be able to have and to use. The bankers, they have their specialties, the analysts have their specialties, and often they don't speak French, so it is beneficial as an administrative assistant to have someone bilingual to be able to call and facilitate the purpose, either a meeting or a conference call or travel. And I'm really thrilled to be able to use my language on a regular basis. What else can I tell you? Besides the business benefit, there's cultural benefit to knowing and using a language. It's always a pleasure to communicate immediately with the guests that come to Chicago. And although some of the visitors do want to practice their English skills, some of the French visitors are thrilled to be able to communicate in their native language. and welcome the dialogue.
And it's also important for you to sort of be familiar with some of their cultural differences. For example, you were mentioning before the tu and the vous in French is very important.
Certainly.
Especially in the business world, since it's a way, maybe you could explain that, Nancy.
Certainly, and often as a sign of respect, I would always vouvoyer the client or even internal personnel, colleagues, until they gave me the right to tutoyer. And sometimes that would be immediate, and sometimes that would take time. But I would certainly defer to what they preferred to use. Americans often can be informal in their contact, and the French sometimes find that really refreshing. And other times there's a level of formality which you just need to use based on the position and based on the purpose of the meeting and based on the level of the people attending.
Right.
But knowing the language and using it is a benefit to me personally, because I know the language. I have French speaking people in my family, and also it's a natural extension to be able to use it in the work environment, and to also to pick up the nuances. And often there's translations that would come in, and my bankers would ask me to highlight the key points of the translation, sometimes the business terms, sometimes the financial terms, but to have a quick gist of what was being communicated in the email, and being aware of the time difference with Paris being 7 hours ahead of Chicago.
Right.
It was very helpful to be able to have someone to give them a concise resume quickly.
Yeah.
And besides just knowing and using the language is a joy.
Well, thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Avec plaisir, Mary. À la prochaine.
Bonjour Claudine, ça va?
Bonjour Marie, ça va et toi?
Très bien, merci. Claudine, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind by starting off just by telling us a little bit about yourself. And then I was hoping that you could sort of highlight one of the cultural differences that exists in France, and what one that you experienced. And I know that you went for a job interview in France some years ago, and you had part of the job interviewing process was to have your handwriting analyzed. So I was wondering if you could just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, and then go on to the handwriting analysis.
Sure. So I'm Claudine, and I've been living in the US for over 25 years now. I'm from Normandy in the north of France, and from a town called Rouen. And I started English before high school, yeah, that's pretty much about me, I guess. Unless you have any other questions.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, and then you mentioned one of my first job when I was interviewing. One of the company I went to, they actually asked me, well, first of all, back in the days, we always had to write a letter by hand. There was no letter submitted being typed. The resume was typed, but the letter always had to be handwritten. So I don't know if all the companies submitted the letter for the analysis. I'm not sure. But I know that particular company, they told me ahead of time, they asked me to write a different paper. Actually, they asked me to write, and they submitted it. And they never gave me the results, unfortunately, but I know I didn't get the job, so they must have found something.
Something in your handwriting.
Yeah, that they were not too keen on, so... yeah, so that I don't know if it's still done nowadays, but I know we're talking 25 plus years ago, that was very common.
Okay, so I'm here with my monolingual friend Debbie. And Debbie, I would just like to ask you about how you feel about being monolingual. And just perhaps why sometimes you would be able to feel the benefits of being able to speak another language.
Yes. Well, since you and my two other friends are fluent in French, it would be great when we're all out that I could be conversing as well, because working at the French bank, I took classes there. I took French in college and high school. I loved it.
Yeah.
And if I really had wanted, I would have loved to have kept going and be fluent.
We all worked at Société Générale, and so that's where we met.
Yes.
And so that's what Debbie's referring to.
So would be a great benefit just to be able to converse with my friends, and then could keep practicing the French. And then my kids take French, and I help them with homework sometimes, but it would be great to be able to teach them a little bit more about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Anything else that you feel?
Yes. Well, also I love traveling because I grew up in Europe. I grew up in Ireland, but I love traveling in Europe. And when I go there, when I did go to Paris, I loved that I was able to use a lot of French words that I know. I really wanted to try.
Yeah.
And people there were so appreciative when Americans are trying or speaking the language and using certain words. Mm-hmm. But it would be great if I could just be fluent and talk.
Yeah,
easily to them. Yeah. Yes, that would have been wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much,
You're
Debbie.
welcome.
Merci.
Thank you.
Tu m'aimais, je ne me souviens plus, c'était tard dans la nuit, j'entends encore la voix, mais je ne vois plus.
Learning a new language allows us access to the richness of a new culture.
Tu m'aimais encore, me l'a-t-on vraiment dit que tu m'aimais?
You may be familiar with the beautiful art of Claude Monet, who was the founder of French Impressionist painting. He was quite a prolific contributor to the movement, and his series of paintings named Water Lilies is well known around the world. Many of us read Le Petit Prince as children. This novella was written by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. There's a beautiful quote from the book which reads, "On ne voit bien qu'avec le cœur." We see well only with the heart. The music that we are listening to now is L'après-midi d'un faune. It was written by Claude Debussy after he was inspired by a beautiful poem by the same name written by Stéphane Mallarmé. The poem L'après-midi d'un faune was so inspirational that it was later made into a ballet using the music of Debussy and was first performed in Paris in 1912. Many products of French culture are available to us right here in Chicago. At the Art Institute of Chicago, the beautiful paintings of French artists such as Gauguin, Cézanne,
C'est le tréma qui m'ensorcelle dans le prénom de Raphaël, comme il se mêle
and Degas can be admired.
a l'air d'un ange, mais c'est un diable de
La Crêperie is a very friendly and welcoming restaurant on Clark Street and has been serving authentic French crêpes since 1972.
Et pour toujours.
So, you see, there are many benefits to learning a second language, many more than can be mentioned in this one presentation. Increased opportunities for employment in the US and abroad, a better understanding and greater perspective of our global community, greater access to different cultures and the rich traditions, music, cuisine, art, and literature that they have to offer.
Archange étrange d'un autre ciel, pas de délices, pas d'étincelles, pas de malice sans Raphaël. Les jours sans lui deviennent ennui, et mes nuits s'ennuient de plus belle, pas d'inquiétude.